Hi everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about some statements that Anthony Mackie, the actor from Captain America, said recently that have completely gone viral and that people online really do not seem to like, even though to me, not only is he right with the things that he's saying, but also the fact that he's getting so much hate over what he said proves exactly his point. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is him. This is Anthony Mackie, apparently the actor from Captain America. I'm not a big superheroes, movies fan or whatever, so I'm not really into that. But I do recognize him. I do remember him from 8 Mile movie, which I actually really like, and I really liked his performance. And I also remember him because he went viral some years ago because of something kind of controversial that he said about men and women on Wendy Williams a few years back that we'll also get into. But let's listen to this since it's the most recent thing. Let's listen to how bad it is, what he's saying about the masculinity crisis.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always, since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. Mm. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, you know? And so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
So mad respect to what he's saying, but let's actually get into it. Let's see what's so problematic about what he's saying. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. Maybe some of you are like, what? Like, oh, it's 2020. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm going to share mine. He's sharing his, obviously. And let's start with everything that he's saying, you know? He starts saying that he wants his kids to be humble and that he's not going to get them Jordans or, I mean, I'm not really familiar with Jordans. I know they're like expensive shoes, right? But that's great. I mean, that's great. I'm sure this guy has a lot of money. And you do see all these celebrity kids that are like dressed in Balenciaga. I'm looking at the Kardashians. Well, not the Kardashians, like absolutely everybody. And it's ridiculous. It's like, first, why does anyone even spend that much money on clothing? I don't know. But it does get to a level where these people, they can do that because it's like they're not gonna dress, you know, from Zara, I guess. So I get it. But why are your kids dressed in Balenciaga? Like, what's the need? First, because they don't even know what Balenciaga is. But second, once they do realize what Balenciaga is, and once they realize that they're covered in what is basically people's salary for a month, I'm sure that's not gonna do great things for them. I'm sure that's going to make them think they're above people, or I'm sure that's gonna make them not wanna put too much effort into their life. You know, like if you're a kid and you already have all these things, it's like, why would I even try in school? Why would I try to be a good person? Why would I try to do this and that and have a purpose and have, you know, a career or a job or bring some sort of value to the world when I already have all these things anyway? Not that the sole purpose of doing all the things that I just mentioned would be to afford Balenciaga, but in a kid's mind, he'd be like, oh, like, what's the point? Like, I already have it all. I'm already the cool kid in town. You know, in my school, I'm the coolest one. I have the coolest things. I have social media following because of my mom and my dad and this. So I so respect that he's keeping his kids humble. They have not earned the Jordans. They don't work. I'm not saying like dress them in like ripped clothing, but they don't need to be dressed in Balenciaga or whatever it is. And it's actually very funny because I remember some years ago, somebody told me, I don't know if this is true, but I bet it is, that Gordon Ramsay, the chef, who's, you know, a millionaire, I guess, when he flies first class, he only flies, I love this so much, he only flies first class with his wife. And his kids, he actually puts them in economy class. And I so love that because it's like, you have not earned, you know, this might be a bit much for some people, but it's like, it's true. They have not earned being in first class. They haven't worked for anything. Like, just be in economy, you peasants. Okay, not so much, but you know, you do want to instill some of that like humility in children, and some of that, like, if you want to be where daddy and mommy are, you need to actually earn that. You need to work hard, and you need to get to a position where you can do that for yourself, and not just us giving you the entire world because we're your rich parents. I went to a very expensive university. I went to actually two very expensive universities. One of them was an Ivy League, and about half of the kids were, from extremely wealthy backgrounds, as you can imagine. The other one was a private school in Europe, and most of the kids there were also extremely wealthy. I myself do not come at all from a wealthy background. I always had like scholarships. I was always like a very good student. But the point here is that I have seen very, very closely and very well how some of these kids of the elite behave and act like they're better than everybody just because mommy and daddy have money and have given them absolutely everything. That's not to say that some of them were great people and were very humble and they were just like normal people completely, and you could tell their parents raised them right, but the majority, I mean, we all know this, like they were just raised with the wrong things, with things in mind instead of values and principles and hard work and this and that. And they were just not even trying, cheating on exams or whatever they could, any chance they got, and just trying to break the rules because they really just thought they were that much better than the average student. Anyway, the next thing that Anthony says, Anthony, I'm acting here like I know him, that Mackie says, is that how you say his name? Anyway, the next thing that he says is that he tells his kids, do not let me catch you being stupid. And I can see how for our ultra sensitive crystal generation, this would be extremely problematic to say. And I can see how so for some people from some cultures that have been raised certain ways, this would be a crazy thing to say. But for those of us that have been raised in certain environments, and maybe this is a bit of a stereotype, but I'm going to go and throw it in anyway. For people that have been raised maybe like Hispanic homes, we all know the flip-flop, or maybe even black homes or whatever it is. I'm sure it's not a thing about race or ethnicity, but that is kind of where the cliche goes. Well, it's not a very uncommon thing to say. You don't want to upset your parents because there will be consequences. And I have seen so many kids nowadays that they just, their parents are afraid of them. I would say it's more so a generational thing than it is a race and ethnicity thing. Because kids nowadays, man, like you can tell their parents are scared of them. It's not even the other way around. I'm not saying your kid should be terrified of you because you're gonna like beat them to death. I'm obviously not saying that, but they should respect you as their parent. And especially the dad, they should respect both, obviously, but the dad should be like a figure of discipline. Moms a lot of the time are more like loving, but one of them at least has to be the disciplinarian. That doesn't have to mean physical abuse. It can be any other sort of consequences, but they do have to respect their parents. Otherwise, you have all these kids in the stores that, they're throwing tantrums and they're disrespecting their parents when the parent doesn't buy them what they want. And the parent is literally afraid of them, just being like a simp for their child because they're too scared of how the child might react. And that's extremely weird. I mean, that's not the way nature meant for things to be. Come on. So I absolutely love that, and it seems like it's working because his eldest is actually like, hey guys, just so you know, do not be stupid because there will be consequences. I absolutely love that. Another thing that he says is that he tries to instill that his kids are respectful, that they always say thank you, please, yes ma'am, yes sir. And I love that. I absolutely love that because you don't see that nowadays. You see a bunch of like disrespectful people, not even children. And at least children, it's like, oh well, they're kids, they're being raised wrong. But it's like adults, you don't have an excuse. So many disrespectful, so many impolite people nowadays. When I was in college in the Ivy League that I was telling you guys about, I was a student obviously, but I was also a waitress. My school had a hotel and I was a waitress at the hotel, and the hotel, it would host events, for different things, international things, or events from the country, like just a bunch of random things. But occasionally when there were football games, it would also host breakfast for the football players, for the athletes that morning when they had a game. And I remember that these guys would come in and their coach would really he was a very like disciplined man, and he really wanted them to be that way, to be like, respectful, disciplined men. And they were so lovely, and not like, and I'm not saying it in like a physical way. I'm saying it in like the way they actually treated us servers, They were extremely polite. They would always say like, oh, thank you, like, oh, please, like, thank you ma'am, or whatever. And I was a student, so for me it was just mostly like, oh, thank you, please, whatever. But for the older people, like the bosses or the managers or whatever, they were like, oh ma'am, sir, please, this and that. And I remember that was the coach, first of all, because I would remember the coach like kind of watching them and being like, you better treat them with respect. Like, I guess he was being like another parent to them that maybe many of them didn't have. And I remember at some point, like something happened or something, one of these athletes, and the coach like took them outside and was like, that sounds so scary. It's like he took him outside and beat him. Not like that, but he took him outside and he was like talking to him. And you could just tell this athlete had like genuine respect for this man and was actually listening and being quiet. It was like a military type of situation, like relationship. And I just really love that, because you actually were seeing young, respectful men in a school where many people were, like I was just saying, were not respectful at all. They were actually quite the opposite. What's another thing that he says? That these kids, these three boys, I guess, right, that he has, they need to know that they have to provide and protect for their mother. What's so bad about that? The woman gave life to you three. Like, of course you need to make sure that she's well taken care of and that she's protected. And then he says that when he goes for a job and he leaves the kids alone with the mom, that they have to make sure that the alarm is on and that the door is locked. And people went crazy about this. They're like, oh, so much pressure. Like, give me a break. He's just telling them that he has to lock the door and turn the alarm on. Is that really that taxing for a child? Like, for anybody, really? I mean, that's like the bare minimum. It just really, really bothers me, because we know that in the US right now, African Americans are the population with the highest number of single mothers. Most of the kids are being raised by single moms. And when we see a guy who's not only an active parent and who actually lives with his wife and his kids and actually wants his kids to be good men, say all these things and give advice on how to do this, well, people condemn him and people go crazy on him, which really just ends up proving his point that maybe American masculinity, and not just American, maybe Western masculinity really is pretty much ending. And of course, femininity as well. Like, that's a whole different situation, a different topic. And if one is breaking, well, the other one inevitably is going to break as well. But it is a thing. Like, when you see all the people offended, it's like, oh, damn, like, he is right. You're just proving his point. If you're offended by a man saying that he wants his kids to say, yes, ma'am, and thank you, and please, and to not do stupid things, to be humble and to grow up to protect their mother, if you think that's too much pressure on kids, on anybody, like, are you out of your mind? Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Are you okay? And yeah, sorry to break it to you, men are stronger. Men are physically stronger than women. You are the protective gender. I'm sorry if that's a lot of pressure. Women also have all sorts of different pressures. That's just the way life works. You can opt out of that, I guess. You can be just a feminine man and have women protect and provide for you. I don't know how well that's going to work out. I mean, it works out for some people, but not really the vast majority of us. But I mean, you can go ahead and try it, I guess. All right, guys. So let's take a look at the comments, because I guess especially the part that triggered people was him saying that, you know, American masculinity is dead, or it's in the process of dying, and then they've really done a good job at killing it. And again, it's not just America, it's definitely a Western thing. And this is absolutely true. In the past few years, men have been constantly bombarded with this idea that women don't need them, that they're useless, that they better deconstruct their masculinity because it's toxic and oppressive and actually a danger to society, when quite the opposite. You need it to keep society safe. Taking a look at the comments, this guy up here is saying, and this is why young black boys grow up with so much pressure to uphold these antiquated views of what masculinity looks like and end up lonely and depressed. What exactly is antiquated here? To lock up the door when daddy isn't home so that mom doesn't get, well, so that all of them don't get hurt, and to turn on the alarm? Especially when they're probably live in a wealthier neighborhood and people know where they live there and they could purposely target them. Is saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, thank you, is that antiquated? Like, come on. It's okay to be a black male and just be yourself. You don't always have to be a man. Okay, sure. I mean, absolutely. Listen, it's what we were saying earlier. If you don't want to be like a deconstructed man and you want women to protect you, go for it. Honestly, this is the time. This is the time in the world's history to be that kind of a guy. Good luck, because most of the time, most men, there are exceptions, most men will not feel comfortable in that kind of role, and most women will not be attracted to that kind of energy. But if that's something you want to do, nobody's stopping you. Anyway, let's see what people have replied to him, because I bet there's a lot of tea here. Oh, actually, he's been replying a lot to people. So, do you feel like being taught to take care of your mother, protecting your household, saying thank you, opening doors for ladies, and being respectful to elders, yes sir, yes ma'am, is a hindrance to young boys developing into men? And he says, Versace. What do we know about Versace? All right. Just that he has his pronouns on his Twitter. That's on his Twitter bio. That's kind of all I need to know. He says, I think teaching literal children and teenage boys to behave like men forces them into strict boxes, hinders their development, and robs them of childhood. All things I see as unnecessary to put your kids through, especially if you're a huge Hollywood actor. Let's remember as well that his eldest is 15. Yeah, he's a kid, but, you know, in 3 years, he's going to be allowed to vote, to buy a gun, to go to the military. So it's not like he's 2 years old and his dad is like, you need to protect and provide for your mother. Another thing is that he's saying that it's a hindrance that this father is teaching his teenage boys to behave like men. But the question is, what else should he be teaching them? They're boys, aka they're going to be men very soon. One of them very soon. I mean, it's same with girls, right? Like if I have young girls, I'm going to teach them to become women because they are going to be women eventually. And don't you want them to succeed as women in the world? And this guy is like, why do gay men get so offended by how heterosexual men choose to raise their boys? And Versace, him, replies, because children are innocent and don't deserve to have fucked up lives because you hate yourselves, hate women, and can't afford therapy. What? How did you get there? Wait, what? Like, people are crazy. So Anthony Mackie, right? He was just saying like, I want my kids to be humble, respectful, and to take care of their mother. That's all he said. And this guy is like, they don't deserve to be fucked up lives because you hate yourselves, hate women, and can't afford therapy. Are you okay? Because it seems like you're the one that like can't afford therapy. Like, what's going on in here? How did you jump to that conclusion? Like, that escalated super quickly. Anyway, people keep calling him gay. I don't think that's the way to go, but Twitter will be Twitter. Anyway, let's see what Fried Chicken over here says. Fried Chicken and Moet. That's a curious username. He says a whole bunch of nothing. Confusing respect with fear is the reason this weird cycle continues. It sucks that nobody ever showed him what respect looks like with compassion and unconditional love. This is kind of sad. I'm sure this had to be edited heavily. No, he's not talking about instilling fear upon his kids. He's talking about literal respect. I mean, fear would be like, they fear me so much, they shake when they see me or they turn the other way. That's not the same as, don't let me catch you doing stupid things, and you better respect me and your mother, and you better say thank you and please. How could that be bad for your kids? I'll tell you what, if you really think that raising kids this way is bad and that you should just let them roam around and do absolutely whatever in the name of compassion and love, try both things. I'm not actually saying to try this because it's children, come on, like you don't want to use them as guinea pigs, but I would just love these people to do that, I'm not actually saying to do this, but just as a hypothesis, right? Have 2 kids and one of them, raise them that way. Just let them roam around, let them be free in the name of love and compassion, with zero respect towards you because you don't want them to fear you, and then raise one as an actual respectful child whom you want to turn into a valuable human being in the future, someone who brings value into the world, and see the difference of how these two turn out. And if you don't want to go through this actual experiment that I'm not actually telling you to do, just compare. Look at the kids of people who have, version A. They're like, no, just let your kids do this and that. And look at the kids of people that were like, you're going to be a good human being and I'm going to teach you how. And you're going to start by respecting your parents. And see what the difference is. Look at which set of kids is lost. Look at which set of kids actually has direction. Look at which one treats other people with more kindness and respect. Look at which one is actually doing better in life, and many other things that can be taken as metrics of this comparison. This guy says he just said masculinity and just described basic manners. Maybe we are cooked. He gets it. It's like, come on, like if that triggers you, you're clearly not okay. Somehow empowering your son and teaching him responsibilities is a bad thing on this app. Crazy times. Anyway, guys, so while we're on this topic, I wanted to share with you this other time that Anthony Mackie also made the internet mad. Let's hear him.
I do believe that if he wants a sandwich,
you make daddy a sandwich.
Most of the time.
No. Let me ask you this. Well, okay, let me ask you this. If me and you out and somebody say something slick to you,
you punch him in the face.
You want me to smack him in his mouth, right?
That's right.
So if I take you on a date and I say, look, baby, we gonna go Dutch.
No.
Exactly. If we walking up to the car and I don't open your car door, what do you say?
Open the door.
You better believe it.
Yeah, no, I am with you. I think
so you make daddy a sandwich.
I think I will after I get out of the shower. But it'll get done.
Yeah, guys, so when this came out, I don't even know when it happened actually, but I know I saw it like a few years ago and it really made people mad, especially women, as you can imagine. And hey, I mean, that's your call. If you're the kind of woman that doesn't want her door to be opened or that wants to go Dutch or whatever it is, then, go for it. Like, it's completely your call to pick that kind of man. And then when he asks you to make him a sandwich, be like, bitch, no, you make it yourself. I'm not making anything for you. Not even serving you a glass of water. It's completely your call. Same way that I was saying it's that guy's call. What was his name? Versace. If he wants to be like a princess and he wants to find a woman who's a prince, it's completely your call. I'm not imposing anything on anybody, but he is right. And by my set of values and morals and the way things should work, like, he's completely right. If you're in a more traditional relationship and you're with the kind of man that would break someone's face or intervene for you or step in for you or defend you or protect you, and he asks or even provides for you, like in the case of many women that, you know, they're stay-at-home moms or whatever, he takes this leadership role at home and he just asks you to make him a sandwich, why would you say no? I mean, just in general, like, if you're with a man, dating, engaged, married, whatever it is, and he asks you to make him a sandwich, why wouldn't you? I can't imagine being like, no. I mean, I understand if it's like a life or death situation, like you're really late for work or whatever, and he's like, oh no, you have to make me a sandwich, I don't care if you're late for, like, I can understand that, but why would that trigger you so much? If he's just like, hey babe, can you please make me a sandwich, why would you be like, oh, like, no, like, what do you think like, get over yourself, come on. That's the thing, people just need to get over themselves, and everyone's free to choose whatever kind of relationship they want to have, but also live in reality and stop living in Disneyland and stop taking things as these like personally offensive declarations. I don't know. I know this guy has had like a lot of controversy with the whole Captain America thing because he said that it doesn't represent America. I don't even know what that means. I'm not very into that because I just don't like superhero movies. But just based on these two things that I've seen, I really like him. I really respect him. And I think we need more men like this, to be fair and to be honest. But I would love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, I'll wait for you to say what you think in the comments. Give me your likes, subscribe, and I will see you very soon.